Did you stop the streaming? Yeah.
Yeah.
I do
YouTube
not.
Live now. It's not streaming.
Yeah, it went offline.
It's probably us, but I think YouTube takes a bit more time.
Well, you got two streamed
It's working. The sound is working. Yep.
Yeah, sure.
Yes, we're here. Just had to unmute the mic. Do you, No, we're not actually driving. We're parked, so I'll be on the road here soon. But I wanted to jump in and watch this for a little while I had a chance.
Well, just quit using Slack for right now. Everybody's
Yes, sir. Sure. Yep. I am ready. Are you all able to see my screen okay with the PLC code? Okay, so if you saw behind me, I have a compact logic sitting which simulates the riser, and I have a server running ignition which is sending the data off this PLC to the to Sean's broker. But the logic is fairly straightforward. There's a few values that are generated for the temperature as well as the pressure. Right now, I don't have anything perhaps simulating those numbers, but it's essentially just a manual entry. And what we're doing is we're opening and closing a valve based on the presence, first of all, of a permissive. So in this case, I've programmed like a local start and stop push buttons. But the idea is going to be to obviously start it remotely through MQTT. And then there's going to be limits. So if we hit this low set point, then we're going to open the valve. Then when we hit this low, low or high, high, we're going to close the valve. And then there's going to be different set points calculated based on the temperature setting. So there was this, I guess, specification sheet that was given to me. So I'm calculating the high, high as well as the high limits through a very simple formula. And then there's currently 4 alarms. So like I've mentioned, low, low is going to latch in, the high, high as well. And those 2 are going to require a manual reset from the operator as specified in the sheet. And then the low and high are just going to be essentially lights on the system that are going to be there for pure display. And then all of this data is going into ignition. So I'm just going to move the logic out of the way. And on the ignition side, there's going to be a tag structure which is sending the booleans as well as the reals. So like I said, the booleans are mainly used for the alarms as well as the valve. And then you have the reals that are used for pressure, temperature. And that's being sent to the server, which is in, I guess, in Sean's office somewhere. But, right. So it is connected, it is talking, and then I have this, let me see here. So I'm reading the data, and I'm going to try and, I guess, here I'm going to show some data on that one screen. Let me just squeeze this kind of on one display. So I'm subscribed to the topic, which is going to be that data riser real as well as the booleans. And if I go into my controller scope of tags, I can scroll down to the riser. And I've already labeled each one of those tags. One second. So for example, my real 0 is going to be the current pressure of the riser. And if I manually change this tag to, for example, 6 psi, then the data is going to be passed here at the bottom. It's using a spark plug connection, so it's shown right here. So as you can see, we've written a 6, and it's going to be, I guess, on Kudzai side captured and then sent to an IoT hub / Azure and trended as needed. And that's, I guess that's pretty much the hardware and software setup on a high-low. So ignition is the link between the PLC and the MQTT broker. So let me go back in here. So there's going to be 2, just to kind of expand on that a little bit, there's going to be 2 modules which we're using called MQTT engine and MQTT transmission. And as Justin mentioned to me earlier, we can use engine alone, but I had already configured transmission. So we kind of have both of them in the structure. But ultimately, that's what allows me to connect to your server and then specify the tags through the designer to be sent and published up there. Mm-hmm. Do you want me to stop sharing? Okay. Gotcha. Yep, give me 1 second. So I'm just going to change the pressure. So there you go. We have 10 psi, 12, 13. It should be riser real 0. Make sure it's the D data, not the deep earth. Yes. Are you seeing it? Interesting. Well, I'm seeing it on my end through my MQTTFX.
Did you put in the
I'm
whole
also-
path?
Yeah, well, I can receive it on my end, yes, so I'm sure. Yeah, on my MQTT effects, yeah. Yeah. So I think, okay. There you go.
Okay. Anything?
Because you're not putting in the whole. It could be that the folder structure because he's doing it from ignition.
Yeah, because it also seems you're on the deep bed. Are you?
Okay.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah. So yeah, MQTT is a lightweight protocol that's been around since probably the early '90s or somewhere in the early to mid '90s. It's primarily used in low bandwidth networks. Now, obviously, we're doing this across multiple states and countries at this point. So in a nutshell, it's the whole goal of it is to publish data, and then a client on the other side is a subscriber. So taking that real value, so another client out there or a bunch of clients can subscribe to that 1 point or hundreds of points or thousands of points. So right. So I mean, yeah. So instead of having to move it to for people to get access to, or being dependent on other systems to sort of daisy chain the data, as it happens in some situations, is that you can actually, well, everybody, from a client perspective is consuming the same data from the same place, so the same topic. So as long as you have access to that topic structure, then you can actually, access that information.
Oh yeah, certainly. Maybe I'm just gonna start with the decoupling aspect of it. So I think Justin touched a bit on that to say, traditionally what we have is a system whereby applications they are connected to devices using applications APIs. So once you've got that link, you cannot replace a device or an application because it's tightly coupled. So what MQTT does then, it makes the system loosely coupled such that you can replace devices. Devices, they don't have to know anything about each other. So you could have an Opt22 talking to like a data science application in the cloud. The data science cloud application doesn't have to know anything about Opt22 as a piece of hardware as long as it is subscribing to that data. Okay, yeah, and then what also is more important is the issue of the bandwidth usage. So with the traditional form of communication, we would have or a SCADA system actively polling all the devices to get the information. Then now with MQTT, everything is in the reactive mode now. So there's wastage of bandwidth, unnecessary usage of bandwidth. You only get the information when there's a change in the data. Yeah. So what else do you want to speak about? And the scalability issue. I think you touched on that as well. So you can scale, put in as much devices on the network as you can, up to 1,000 devices. Yeah. So when did you start working with MQTT, Justin? How long have you been?
Probably 2000, probably 13, 14.
Okay. Okay. So like I'm curious to find out because you mentioned that it's been around for like
The actual protocol, yeah. I mean, the
yeah,
protocol, yeah. I mean,
yeah.
as far as being, I think it's like 1992 or something like that. I've heard
1992 or
different
so.
dates, but
Yeah.
like you talk to serious link guys, they say 99 or something. But if you really look it up, it's like 1992 or something from what I understand. But it doesn't matter how long. But it's been around for a long. But yeah. So I've done, primarily myself, where I've used MQTT is kind of the opposite of kind of probably everybody either consuming this content or,
Yeah.
it's been because I've been involved in the embedded space.
Yeah.
So it was basically taking data from the actual device all the way to your site, all the way to Azure.
Yeah.
So essentially a direct connection, to Azure from the device. So not really probably not really interfacing with traditional SCADA systems or anything like that. So that's pretty much what from my standpoint. So really, this
Oh yeah.
whole Spark plug B and that sort of thing. It's really never came into place in the stuff I was doing because those were such custom projects that the customer had their own sort of payload structure, or and so. But obviously with Spark plug B, I mean, there's obviously extremely amount of advantage of going that way when you're in like the industrial space.
Yeah.
Whereas like in like the more traditional IoT, people don't sort of probably never even heard of really spark plug or whatever for the most part, just because it's a completely different use of IoT, compared to IIoT, so.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, so I'm sure we could say it's only going mainstream now because it's fine, it's used, but it has been in use for like a long time
Yeah,
before it
protocol's
yeah.
been used. I mean, for a long time. And so yeah, it's been used for quite a bit. Like a lot of your
Yeah.
platforms out there, web platforms. I mean, a lot have used MQTT.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's
Diff-
quite it's yeah, sure.
Yeah, a lot of different agencies, like probably government agencies and stuff, have used like protocols like MQTT and other, there's some other protocols that have been around for a long time too that sort of might be a little bit similar to MQTT, like maybe like 1553 protocol, which is more used in like in aviation. Yeah, I mean, but yeah. So now you're seeing it more in the industrial space now, because it's got a really low band. You can push a lot of data through a
Yeah.
small pipe. I mean, essentially, so it was really, from my opinion on it, it was really intended for like serial networks, right? Because you have very low bandwidth compared to like, fiber or Ethernet or, a broadband, So I believe really you could actually MQTT data over like dial up pretty efficiently,
Yeah.
just because of the low amounts of data. I mean, you might have to manage the data, but you still could do it. So.
Oh yeah, I see. That's interesting. And then the spark plug, Vlad, you want to speak on spark plug, but like because like one of the things that I sort of got in the industry that people they're struggling to understand what's the purpose of spark plug? Why is spark plug really what's all about? What is it all about?
Well,